Hey Gun RPG fans, this video is going to be a response to ballinnick1982's Resurrected RPG video. If you haven't checked it out, it's a wonderful video where he talks about all these great old school RPGs that deserve to be remade or reimagined for today. And I've always had a list with me through the years of games I would like to see resurrected, and I haven't really thought about it for a while until I watched this video. It definitely got me thinking again. I really wanted to do a response video. Definitely check out his video. Definitely check out Pete Dawes' response video. That was awesome. What's really fun is he mentioned a lot of games that I'm going to mention. And definitely check out all the other responses. So to begin with, the first game I would like to see resurrected is Wonderboy, or I should say the Monster World series. Fantastic 2D side-scrolling action RPGs. This and Phantasy Star kind of got me into RPGs, and I I've wished so much for another Wonderboy game. I know the series ended with Monster World 4, which never came outside of Japan. That was a wonderful game, but I've always wanted just one more. When Mega Man 9 sort of came out and sort of started a whole new wave of retro games, I was praying that Sega or West One would just try to delve back into this wonderful series. The artwork is fantastic, and the gameplay is very simplistic but so much fun. And I'm a big fan of backtracking in games. I know a lot of people don't like backtracking, but I'm actually a big fan of it. I'm a fan of finding somewhere that I can't access and basically letting my mind wander of what I need to get to open that door, or how to get past that obstacle. And the Wonder Boy games sort of have that in spades. It's got that. I don't like saying the term Metroidvania, but it is a very Metroidvania game. Is awesome. So if you like the 2D action RPG Castlevania games or Super Metroid, you'll love the Wonder Boy games, starting from Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap, up until Monster World 4. Sega, please definitely consider another Wonder Boy game. I'll buy it within a heartbeat, whether it be downloadable or, you know, in a hardware form. Definitely, I would like if you would consider making another Wonder Boy slash Monster World game. Come on, Sega, another Phantasy Star. I know that's a tall order, and I don't think it would happen, but I would love to see another Phantasy Star game that kind of utilizes, I would say, the Phantasy Star 4 engine. Now, what's really tricky is this Olgo Star series, as I like to call it, ended with Phantasy Star 4 End of the Millennium, and it was a really good ending too. So I'm kind of two minds about it. I would like to see a 2D Phantasy Star, but Phantasy Star 4 kind of wrapped things up nicely. So it is a mixed bag, but if they could make another Phantasy Star game with the same magic as the old series, but in an entirely new world, or they might want to do a prequel to the Phantasy Star series. I know that there was a fan game called Phantasy Star Dark Millennium where it took place years before Phantasy Star, and that looked amazing. You know, something like that, that would just be amazing. I would love to play another Phantasy Star game. Soliel, otherwise known as Crusader of Senti in America. Now, I haven't really heard too many people play this game, and some people might think this is on the simple side, but I think it was a really challenging action RPG. It's very twee, it's got a lot of cutesiness to it, but I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of hard puzzles, and it was really fun too. I really liked the part where basically you lose your ability to talk to humans, you can only talk to animals, and you can go back in time at one spot. It had a lot going for it, and even had a cameo from Sonic and being a butthole. But I really enjoyed this. I reckon if they, you know, like the other games, it's very hard to believe that Sega would be interested in doing any of these 2D action RPGs, but I just hope that they just get this epiphany that they want to give it another go. And Crusader of Senti slash Soliel is a great game. It definitely deserves one more game. On the topic of action RPGs by Sega, would say in this instant Climax Entertainment, Landstalker. There are so many reasons why there should be another Landstalker game. For one, it's one of the best action RPGs ever made. Had so much going for it, and I play it like every 1 to 2 years because it's just so much fun. There's a lot of great dialogue, a lot of humor in this game. I I keep wanting to say it's an epic adventure, but there's a lot of comedy to this game, and I think it's one of its charms. The reason why I want to see another game is one, the relationship between the main character Nigel and Friday, the little dark fairy that follows him. This is one of the best relationships ever in video games. They feed off each other very nicely, and Friday likes to chew out Nigel whenever he can, and Nigel is one of those heroes that does want to do the right thing, but he's ultimately in it for the money. And I love that about Landstalker, especially the ending. When you witness the ending, you just think that there's possibilities for other adventures with these two. Now, there was one other game that they did appear in, and that's Time Stalkers. Now, that's an absolutely abysmal game. I absolutely disliked it immensely. But I'd love to see another Landstalker game just with Nigel and Friday. And what's really sad was Sega and Climax Entertainment was going to remake this for the PSP back in 2006. I actually bought my PSP waiting for it to come out. I would have imported it in Japanese and played it, but it got cancelled and it was extremely heartbreaking. I don't know if Climax Entertainment is disbanded. I think they're still up and running, living off the money for the ports, I should say, of Landstalker on like the PC and the Virtual Console. I would love them to have another Landstalker game. I would go out of my way to buy one. And speaking of Climax Entertainment, they did another action RPG called Dark Savior for the Sega Saturn. And that was a mixed bag. It was a really, really cool game. Combat was 50-50. You actually didn't get into many battles in that game. It kind of felt like a fighting game at times. But the main reason I want to see another Dark Savior game is one of the elements that made it stand out from every other game is there was multiple scenarios that you could access from the beginning of the game. There's a situation at the beginning of the game where you have to go to the captain's cabin to basically save him from this monster that's broken loose. And there's a timer that runs, and depending on how fast you get there, alters the entire storyline for the game. So the lowest time where the monster eats the captain and fuses with him is the first storyline, because the game is designed for first players not to understand how to get through the obstacles in the cargo bay. But the second attempt after you beat the first storyline, you kind of work out on how to do it a bit faster and you get the second storyline. And then if you get the fastest time, you get the third storyline. What's really brilliant about Dark Savior is the story changes drastically to be a completely new experience with visiting the same areas. But there's certain characters that will befriend you in one storyline but become your enemy in an entirely different other. So I just thought it was a great system, and I would like to see another game sort of utilize that, where the actions at the beginning of the game determine the rest of the story. So, if not Dark Savior, I hope another game does it. So, there's another one. Even though I don't have a copy, probably the last, I would say not the last Sega one, because I still got a lot of other Sega games I'd like to see resurrected, but there's a little game called The Story of Four, and it's also called Beyond Oasis in America. Fantastic, awesome 2D action RPG. Very top down, and the combat was very intricate. You could button mash and your character would perform an array of combos. It was very fluid, and I really loved the combat in that. But it was basically a story of Four slash Beyond Oasis had this world where basically there are two armlets, the golden armlet and the silver armlet, and they govern these supreme powers. And the silver armlet sort of controls everything and has the power of destruction, while the gold armlet has the power to summon the spirits. Now, your main character has the golden armlet, And basically, throughout the journey, you require the power of all these spirits that kind of accompany you as a second character. But they also act as sort of the way to get over obstacles. Like there would be this fire that blocks the path to the new area, but you would get the water spirit that would douse the fire with water. And it's a really fun action RPG, and it had a sequel on the Saturn called Story 42 slash Legend of Oasis. I always thought that it deserved one more game. And I think out of all the games that I'm going to mention, it actually deserves a 3D transition because I reckon it do really nicely in 3D. And as long as they keep on board Yuzo Koshiro, who was the game's composer, awesome game, deserves to get another game in the series. Going back to Landstalker, some of the team that made Landstalker that left Climax Entertainment went on to Matrix Software to create The Adventures of Alundra, another fantastic action RPG. Your character basically has the ability to go into people's dreams and save them from their nightmares that have the power to kill them within. That was amazing. I really wanted another tale with Alundra. I know that there was Alundra 2, but it didn't have Alundra in it. It wasn't that great at all. I'd like to see another Alundra game with Alundra going into more people's dreams. I'd buy that in a heartbeat. I'd like to see another game of the series that's kind of enslaved my life for the last 2 months, and I'm actually still playing it, and I did about 8 hours yesterday, and of course, Shining Force. I know Pete already mentioned Shining Force, but remember, RPG fans, I did that video where I supported the Shining Force SOS. Fortunately, we haven't really heard anything back from Sega or Camelot, so I don't know where their stance is on it. But I'd like to see another Shining Force game, not action RPG or anything else, a proper Shining Force game that uses the same battle system. I've wanted that for years. Me and the other Shining Force fans, we want Shining Force 4. And whether they use the Mega Drive engine or they want to do their own or build off the Shining Force 3 engine, they remain to me the best action RPGs, just slightly tied with Fire Emblem, and I would love to see another Shining Force game. I'll probably go into more detail in another video of how things are panning out for the series. Another game Pete mentioned, and I'm full agreement, and that is Dragon Quest Swords. There's so many possibilities to create another Dragon Quest Swords game. I love light gun games and I like RPGs, so this is kind of a match made in heaven, where you didn't shoot the screen, you did stab it and slash, and I had so much fun playing this. I was considering if they would like to take a Dragon Quest IV approach where you can play the game from the perspective of numerous characters, and they would have different gameplay styles, like the main character would have a sword and shield, you might have a samurai character that has two swords and you have two Wiimotes slashing the screen, or you might have a magician that uses the Wiimote like a wand or a staff to cast magic. I think that they could do well making another Dragon Quest Swords game. I'd love to see it. There's so much fun. If you haven't played Dragon Quest Swords, go out and buy it. Oh, and quick mention to ballinnick1982. Congrats on getting Kenshin Dragon Sword. I can't wait to get my copy because that's a very rare piece to get. Last but not least, the number one game I would like to see resurrected, and from what I've heard of this week, comes a really bad news that it would be much harder for the series to be resurrected. Good old Suikoden. I want another Suikoden game that utilizes the 2D system, because I personally believe this has the best 2D graphics ever. And the bad news was that the team has officially disbanded. They have basically, Konami has no intention of making a Suikoden game at this stage, so it's very sad. But I'm going to hold out and hope that they will resurrect the series one day. And as much as I like the old school Suikoden games, I don't mind if they make another game like Suikoden 5, because that was also brilliant as well. So that's it. Again, thanks to ballinnick1982 for posting such a wonderful video. Again, definitely check out his response and Pete and everyone else that responded to that video. And make a comment below of a certain game that you'd like to see resurrected, or post a video response to his video. Okay, RPG fans, that's it. Peace out.